Okay, afternoon everyone. Thank you for making this session. Today we're going to be talking about LPO, CPO optics. I think LPO is something that, as we're moving into with pluggables, we're comfortable with. I think CPO is a little bit of a holy war, a little bit of a religious discussion, right? We've been talking about this for years. Why not? So what we're going to have is a little more of an animated panel discussion rather than just a flat presentation. So first, if we can just start, if we could just kind of meet our panel and maybe do some brief introductions, please.
All right, so yeah, I'm Daniel Nishball at SemiAnalysis, Director of Research. I focus mostly on networking and total cost of ownership SemiAnalysis. And we cover sort of the full stack all the way from sort of systems, machine learning, everything. We recently launched Inference Max. So it's very much a systems thing, sort of all the way down the stack to chip design and everything. So, yep, Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie Ho. I'm the VP of Strategy for Micas, and CPO is my baby. So,
I'm Hani, Daou. I do business development at MultiLane. At MultiLane, we do test equipment, primarily focusing on production testing. So, technologies like CPO and LPO and their advent into hyperscaler use cases is, it's very interesting to us.
Okay, great. So I guess we can start, Charlie, with you. So Meta just published some very interesting data on CPO, some things you went through. So why don't you tell us like how you're feeling? You've been in the market a lot, how you're feeling about CPO, where you see the market going, those kinds of things.
okay, thank you. Well, number one, I want to say is really I've been held back not say anything about this test results until Meta released their ECOG 2 weeks ago. So they show 3 major points. Everyone knows about the power saving, but what Meta was showing was a link flop that was showing like millions of hours of operating at, I think, like 400 gig performance. And also that actually lead to huge improvement on the AI training efficiency. So that's something that really exciting to talk about.
Great. And then, Hani, how do you see that?
So I was talking to a hyperscaler at ECOC, and this was a hyperscaler, I'll be just discreet, was not a big fan, was a bit of a holdout on CPO. And I asked them, what changed your mind? They looked at me and they said, the data. So kudos, really, to Micas and the other CPO ecosystem partners for forcing the conversation back in the mainstream about how CPO can be adopted for scale-out. I have some questions about what that looks like from a supply chain and commoditization perspective that are fair to ask, but I think we'll get to that in a couple minutes.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
And then Dan?
Yeah, so from a TCO perspective, we can look at it on a total power budget or a TCO perspective. So I think it's important that CPO can demonstrate you're delivering both. So on a power budget, right, when we sort of run the numbers, we think we can get to probably single-digit power savings. Networking, if we sort of, kind of zoom in, we usually look at a GB300 NVL72 rack, which is about 150 to 160 kilowatts. So you probably got single-digit, all-in power that includes the entire cluster, networking, the server, storage, everything. And then networking, you're probably saving, double digits, 10 to 20%. And that's via sort of going from about 8 kilowatts, and again, the unit is a server, this is per rack, to say 6 kilowatts for LPO, and then anywhere from 1.5 to 2 kilowatts for the optics when you're doing a CPO, right? So single digit, it's important, it adds up, it stacks up, but I think it's also the opportunity cost, being able to say install more revenue generating GPUs with that single digit of savings, and so that's kind of how I would look at it.
So I think as IT buyers, we're always kind of balancing performance, right, with economic benefit, but reliability, right? And I think those 3 factors kind of go into any serious, and particularly when we're in an inflection point, which as we are, which now the data centers are consuming more power than they ever have, like in the history of the world, with essentially some of the most complex decision makers in applications. So, Charlie, how do you feel that the market's going to balance those 3 things as we move into this next generation here?
Okay, so number one, I think we've been looking at CPO for years. And then this is, I think our CEO was working on this stuff, I think 3 to 5 years ago. That's first generation. Right now, the 51.2T generation, second generation, And very quickly, I think this is a generation that we're going to deploy in the thousands for everyone to get familiar with this technology and also get ready, work out the operational model. So people knows about as I said before, about the power saving. But tomorrow, Meta is going to show their test results. I don't want to show their thunder too much, but I do want to say 2 points. 5 times better compared to real-time optics in performance. So that's concrete. And also, they show a beautiful curve that has increased the mean time to between failure. That's something that really increased on the efficiency of GPU. I think every one of us in the Valley, in my mind, we're working on one thing, is a GPU efficiency. So with that, if you can make that even that much, even just few percentage, so it's worth all the trouble.
And then Hani, and then I know you had some
Sure.
points.
So talking about performance, talking about reliability, the data is there. It's very exciting stuff.
Yes.
But let's say for a second, Charlie, I am a hyperscaler or I'm a supply chain guy. Okay, look, right now I can buy optics from 10, 15 different players, and the second one of them is delayed, or the other one increases the price, or the other one has quality issues, or the other one has PCN notifications, I can pivot on a dime to another supplier.
Yes.
Right now we're talking about tiles, we're talking about tighter integration, and we're talking about a limited number of optics players that are allowed in the clubhouse.
Yes.
How would you address commoditization concerns from the major customers?
Okay, that's a fair question. So let me answer in a different way. So before we have HBM integration, we have all those DRAM vendors. Yeah, you can speak the same, some are higher quality, some are, cheaper price. But once you work it out in a semiconductor processing integration, you put that HBM into the GPU, put on the same CoWoS packaging. And this is, CPO was simply CoWoS plus silicon photonics packaged together. So you get the same quantum leap you get from GPU integration.
And then Dan, how do you feel about that or how they were positioned on those things?
So on the reliability, you mean? I think of, I think kind of more in terms of like total cost. I think reliability is something, until Meta, we didn't have a lot of good data. So I think it's like definitely constructive. But I think the pushback is not just reliability. It's not like, ceding control, ceding the flexibility on reliability. It's also certainly ceding control in terms of, costing, right? Because all of those lasers, all of the sort of optical engines getting integrated, right, into that chip box, right, which is sort of a different economics for the vendor. But when you run the numbers, it's still a savings, right, which is really important, right? You do have to deliver, TCO savings. So it's never, the way we look at it, it's never just one thing, right? You have to deliver power savings, TCO, total cost of ownership savings, and reliability improvements, right? You really have to deliver everything to make this work. And I think you do get there, across all three. Yeah.
I think, and we all went through this, the last big cloud boom was fantastic. But there was also, it was a little bit elite. A small handful of companies did more than the entire rest of the world combined, right? AI is going to democratize data centers. It's going to democratize. Everyone has the ability to benefit from this technology. So how do you feel like maybe the CPO market is then going to work with the AI market, where it's going to move to the also not just the biggest of the big, but also out to the rest of the IT community?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So let me answer in this way. I could imagine CPO is like the future. So we started real-time optics pluggable, right? As we're going, we can go trying to do savings. Arista is a huge fan on LPO. We actually like LPO as well. All TH5 switches and TH6 switches, we can plug in every single port. We can plug in up LPO. So if the customer wants it, but that's our intermediate step. I think you get a 200 gig per lane, LPO might work. 400, at least all the expert told me, doesn't work. So we are going to CPO no matter what. It just say, when is that? Okay, right now you have like a three market share. So maybe 100% is pluggable. Maybe in the 1.6T generation, you get to maybe 50, 60% LPO, 10, 20%, 30%. This is a number not for me. Actually, I used to work for Mellanox. So that's the number that they are quoting. They will think 30% will be there. And also Jensen keep on saying, now this is yet to be proven, where the service model saying collapsing the tiers. Right now, we have a 3-tier network for AI training. But with CPO, we could go to a 2-tier. That's actually the huge impact that the few people are waiting for. So I think every time I blog or think about this, the word keep on coming to my mind. We're just getting started with optics. Copper has reached its, I don't know how many more generations we can go, but CPO optics just getting started.
Yeah. Hani, how do you feel about that?
Well, on copper, I'd have to argue that the best is yet to come. Sure. But talking about the democratization of AI, the first thing I think of is a free market. That means our customers need to be empowered with the same flexibility, the same vendor selectability as they have today for a CPO to really, really be compelling to the last naysayers that are going to stand out. So we talked about commoditization. You had an answer for that. What about serviceability? My question specifically is, the skeptic would initially say more integration means it's more of a surgery that you have to perform to replace an optical tile that failed.
Sure.
How would you say that CPO, in fact, improves serviceability in backend networking?
We make it's our customer. The hyperscalers right now are thinking this problem. I could give you the answer from my CEO. Andrew was thinking about this. He was the chief architect for Tencent. Back in the last generation, he's already figured out this. It's how, before it's all about, okay, how easy can I swap it out? So right now, the laser module is the most prone for error part. Okay. It's feasible, right? And then everything else is building a silicon reliability. Then you don't really, they actually show some fits number are huge, much better than traditional transceiver. So I think just give them time. Once by next year, you will see much better service model and the performance numbers.
And then Dan, what are your thoughts about the larger scale adoption for CPO?
Yeah, so I think that's, like I said, I think all 3 boxes have to be ticked. I still think, we don't see it like ubiquity, right? Which is sort of like, I did have a follow-up question for Charlie, like what do you think of penetration would be in the next few years? Because I think for some people, like for hyperscalers, I think the opportunity cost is obvious, right? I don't think it's like obvious to necessarily everyone. I'm not sure everyone gets there on the TCO. Right, you would have to have dramatic TCO, so I think, remains to be seen the kind of penetration ubiquity. So I don't know, like Charlie, do you think we're going to get like what kind of penetration rate do you think we'll sort of see in the next few years?
Okay, I could answer from maybe friendly competition point of view. Mm-hmm. NVIDIA owns the game right now, right? They are clearly pushing for CPO. So whatever they push for the technology, people's going to listen and they're going to adapt. So I wouldn't say we'll hit 80, 90% penetration. For this generation, if we get to 25, 30%, I'll be thrilled. That which means that all the power saving, collapsing of the network, as well as all the different scale out. We haven't even started talking about scale up networking yet.
Yeah.
So this is something that actually, we get our components from Broadcom, right? So they have something up their sleeves. I couldn't say anything right now, but I can't wait for them to make an announcement.
Yeah, but on the 3-layer, right? Because there's many designs where you're collapsing it to 2-layer, right, with a high radix switch configuration. So there's kind of a counter argument where you can do that anyway, right? But I think a really big thing is going to be TCO, right? Like I think NVIDIA, can push people, but I think hopefully the TCO will make sense. I think it can, but it's also like a bit of a chicken and egg. You have to scale this up to the point where it's a mature ecosystem, and then you really do get TCO benefits. So I think there's just dependency. You achieve all 3 legs, and you scale this thing so you get a great TCO, and that's kind of like a flywheel, and we'll sort of like see what pace it develops at. So
as we're coming to a close, right? And thank you all 3 of you for your perspectives on this.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Somebody turn on Ali's mic, please.
It's got to be brief.
Okay.
It's not going to be brief.
Just go ahead and ask it. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead.
Ali, we hear you, man.
Yeah, we can
Go
hear
ahead.
you.
The question I have is that we know that Broadcom, they've been saying that the power will be reduced by 40%, and also they've been saying that the cost will be reduced by 40%. Obviously, you're building system, and I think the big issue with the CPO has been the cost, because you also lose all the copper port, where typically 50% are copper. Given that you have some experience in building the CPO, especially from a manufacturing perspective and the yield, can you elaborate and tell us what is your experience from a manufacturability perspective, yield, and the cost? Can you really deliver 40% cost reduction, compared to a system which has like 50% copper and then 50% are pluggable?
Yes. So that's a very fair question. So number one, I think tomorrow morning when Meta announced, they're going to say for operation, actually, it's 65% saving in power. That's number one. And number two, so far, the yield question we're having, what people have been talking about, this is being actively addressed with TSMC's CUBE manufacturing process. And so far, I could speak from our point of view, is that every single silicon module we get from Broadcom, we were able to turn that into revenue. So for us, it's really, really good right now.
Okay, so I guess it would be, if there's a yield loss, would be, because Broadcom is going to give you a complete assembly, it would be a Broadcom yield loss.
Correct.
So we have two more questions
Okay,
in
thank
only a
you.
minute. So go ahead real quick, please.
Okay, so let's say our point of view here is kind of a middle of the road. We're not CPO, we're not copper, we're just TCO, what makes sense. What type of architectural changes will be needed in a data center in order to take full advantage of optical, because it has different performance characteristics than copper?
Okay. So what I see that people doing is always start with the highest aggregation layer, right? Then you're moving down. So it's start out with a scale network. So the answer is, if you start with scale up, different stories. So let's start with aggregation, then maybe slowly moving down to lower into the tier 1, tier 2.
So I'm sorry, we have to stop now because we're out of time. However, we can be at the back of the room if you'd like to ask. I don't want to cut in. Someone's presenting next, or no?
Yeah, just a very quick one. What kind of a manufacturing capability you need to do to build your switch in large scale?
I like that
Do
question.
you need to buy an optical company?
No, you need to have a clean room. You need to build one, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
so
Thank
much.
you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That was great.